Between the sound flop of Disney's live-action Snow White and the rather lopsided male casting of the most recent Marvel film, you would think that we're sick of female action heroes. But that doesn't take into account so many great action heroes in recent films. It seems like every time the strong female character comes up, the conversation loses all nuance. Or the strong characters that are discussed are ones that are powerful in non-action hero ways. While I'm going to be highlighting a lot of the problems with this trope in my upcoming video essay on the girl boss, I also think it's important to highlight the value of female action heroes. And no, it's not just feminism. I'm not only making a strong female character, but more importantly, a compelling one. So without further ado, here's my interview with sci-fi author Darby Harn. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't been able to finish 2 of your books, but that was not because your writing wasn't awesome. Your writing's amazing. It was because my library interloan ran out.
It's amazing that the libraries have the books. I hear that all the time from people at the shows, and it never ceases to blow me away.
Getting our books in the library, that's half the battle, right? Just because I feel like that's the best advertising when someone's just kind of wandering the shelf looking for something new to read. And yours are very eye-catching as well, especially Stargun Messenger. But I did have a chance to at least read the beginning of Stargun Messenger and Ever the Hero. And the first thing I noticed is both of your characters had to put their flaws on display pretty quickly. So Ever the Hero is in the middle of a job interview of all things and has to literally check a box saying not empowered, which... Oh, is that a can of worms with today's political climate, buddy? Then you got Stargun Messenger going into a freaking mission and she's essentially hungover. So you do not shy away from your character's flaws at all. It doesn't feel like that anyway.
I think it's probably the most important thing about any character is depicting who they are, and that's, for me, that's their flaws. Or our flaws are what make us interesting. The dichotomies and the contrasts and the conflicts internally. So with Adari and Stargun Messenger, she's a bounty hunter, she's a badass, she's hyper competent in a way, which you see at the end of that first chapter. But at the same time, she's not. She's an absolute mess. She's an alcoholic. She's in a codependent relationship with her ship's AI. I don't think you can depict unflawed characters. They don't exist in life.
I think you definitely hit a nail on that, because a lot of people argue that Captain Marvel, for example, she's kind of the quintessential bad example of strong female character, depending on who you talk to. Some people love her, some people hate her. But I think the people who say, oh, she's perfect, I'm like, have you watched that movie?
Have you watched it?
She's obnoxious. She blows up someone's freaking jukebox because she thinks it's funny. She steals a motorcycle because they tell her to smile. She's not a flawless being. The narrative treats her flawless, which is a problem with the writing. But the character itself is not.
That's it, exactly. She's actually one of the most complex characters in the MCU, but to your point, the writing has really let her down. One of the things that I'm always fascinated, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars and Marvel, and both of those fandoms are beset by criticisms of characters like Captain Marvel or Rey, and the fact that they're by a certain set of fandom, which is that these Mary Sues, they call them, or they have other phrases for them, who have somehow ruined the franchises, which is ridiculous when it entirely neglects the history of women in science fiction. And one of the biggest archetypes for that is Sarah.
Morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Dr. Silberman. How's the knee?
Fine, Sarah.
Douglas, I don't like to see the patients disrupting their rooms like this. See that she takes her Thorazine, would you?
Sure, Dr. Silberman. I'll take care of it. It's time to take your meds, Connor.
You take it.
Now, you know you gotta be good because you're up for review this afternoon.
I'm not taking it, Dougie. I don't want any trouble.
Ain't no trouble.
She's being gaslit by her own doctors. Of course, her experience sounds extraordinary, but that's what's happening. She's being utterly dismissed.
There's this point where I kind of wonder, like, is she questioning if she's actually insane? But what I also find so fascinating about that scene, it's the fact that this is not the first time we're meeting this character. And in the first movie, we did see her. She was more the average everyday girl with a roommate and all that stuff. So this is just a culmination of her prior character arc coming together in this one scene.
She's been radicalized by her experience. She may doubt her experience. Certainly at some point she was like, did that really happen? But then at some point she convinced herself that it did. And then that led her to become this doomsday sort of prepper
Right.
who is preparing for something she knows is inevitable. And then that ultimately alienates her son, alienates John in a way that was probably unexpected for her. And that lands her in this situation, which is the ultimate helplessness. It's a shame that we never really got a proper Terminator 3. There were sequels, obviously, of diminishing quality. And her arc, I think, for Sarah was to sort of circle back to who she was, hopefully, because she started out as just a person. She's living her life. There's nothing particularly extraordinary about her. And then the extraordinary lands on her. She goes through this trauma. It would have been fascinating to see where she arced out.
You know, if you look at one thing that was a huge thing that was a good character arc for her in this movie, was her realizing how far her radicalization has pushed her away from her son and pushed her into being a commander instead of a mother.
Yeah.
And that he needs a mom. That's why he's going towards a Terminator in a sense. It's not just because he's missing a daddy figure. It's because he actually also still needs a parent, and she's not being that to him right now.
The scene that really got me when I saw this in the theater too many years ago was her dream of the bomb. You got a true understanding of what she was fighting, which was this fear of this total annihilation.
Yeah, she's taking on way too much responsibility. It is clearly impacting her psychologically. Like, she may not be crazy in the sense of what the doctors think, but she is definitely psychologically damaged in a very profound way because, like you said, she's carrying the literal weight of the world on her shoulders, and she doesn't need to. She just insists on doing it. But since we are talking about honoring action heroes throughout film, Charlie's Angels has been running for quite a while. I thought we might take a look at the most recent addition to the franchise.
Women can do anything.
Ah, Miss Independent. Come here. You're sitting here eating my food, enjoying my view.
By choice. Every one of us. Men, women. We all just want to fulfill our potential, live our heart's desires. And that's the kind of world I want to live in. It's just that I'm so good at so many things.
This particular scene to me felt like it very pointed in what it wanted to say, and it didn't need to say much, because the biggest question I had was why all of this was necessary to get. They had an enormous amount of personnel and firepower at their disposal that they simply could have forced their way into the situation if they wanted to. It felt very lectury in a way that wasn't really necessary, because she was fun. She clearly was skilled in what she was doing. Rather than the audience discovering that, they're sort of forecasting it so hard that you don't let the scene actually breathe.
You're going on and giving me as the audience a lecture that I don't necessarily want nor need, especially when I'm just meeting this character that, like you said, is fun. And she is actually kind of engaging and interesting. And damn it all, Twilight Girl actually managed to portray a fun, quirky spy. And I was actually really rooting for her for a good chunk of this movie. I will say that.
She's interesting. She's a little bit off kilter is the vibe you get. He's essentially telling her to just stand there and look pretty. All of that can just sort of speak for itself. And then, however they want to spring the surprise of that it's a raid, they could do that in ways that she doesn't need to make her performance out of it. Actually, she has a great one-liner, which it should have been like, a really iconic line.
Oh, baby, you swiped right. I'm your girlfriend now.
Scene just drives past.
Yeah, it's lost in all the other chaos.
One thing writers get hung up on when they're trying to depict quote unquote strong women is they confuse them for another species, which is the problem in and of itself. And that puts them immediately at a disadvantage.
Definitely. I mean, I honestly know more about the director's vision from this scene than I do about the character. But what I care about is the character. That's who I'm going to spend the money to go into theaters and engage with. Throughout the movie, I actually liked this character. She has qualities I have problems with, like sticking her foot in her mouth. And I didn't get to see that until there's all this chaos and da-da. Like, what if they'd had her, I don't know, lure the guy out of a bar? It would have made the guards less stupid, for one thing, because they're just standing there while their boss is getting tied up in a sheet. And on top of that, we would have gotten to see more of her as a person as she's like luring him out and being smart and funny and kind of weird.
where's her conflict with what she's doing? Does she have any, like I said, she's fun, but I don't, like you said, I don't have any sense of who she is as a person. I'm supposed to gather that Kristen Stewart is pretending and putting on a show. She's not really fooling anyone, certainly not the audience.
And it makes your antagonist, even if he is just a lower boss on the rung, it makes him look weak and stupid, which makes for a less compelling story. Like, if you make your bad guy look dumb, well, then what am I bothering to overcome and watch here? This is silly.
It goes back to my initial concern, which is why is it such a challenge to get inside this room when they have those kind of resources? It shouldn't be like that at all. If this guy is so smart, so talented, so powerful, it should be a real challenge, which means her getting the position she's in should be a real accomplishment and should also be fraught with danger, which she's never in.
That kind of brings us to a new addition to the world of spies, which is Atomic Blonde.
This is sort of a variation on the John Wick movie where she is an ultimate badass and she just destroys people left and right. She's a spy. She's very tangled up in the politics of her situation. And so this particular scene kind of really brings that home.
You don't just see the, oh, I'm a girl and look at me suffer at man's hands, which is unfortunately a very strong thing in the last one. Instead, you're seeing more of the, I am a badass, and here you can see all the damage I've done to myself to become a badass.
It sets the foundation for her emotional vulnerability when she burns the photo and she sort of is burning her connection. In the present day, almost all of our characters are superheroes and other action heroes don't really suffer injury in the way that they used to. These days, they're perfect. They mow down just legions of NPCs. If they get an injury, it's like, it's because they meet the final boss and the final boss gets a lick in. But in Atomic Blonde, she suffers big time. She gets beat up, she's bruised, she's cut, she's scarred. And then she's medicating also with alcohol, which is something that a Darby does from Stargun. It's a wordless scene. Very little context, but the context which is there is very strong.
Last scene, which is all blah, 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 and tells us almost nothing. This one uses almost no words except for the word vodka on the side of a bottle and tells us everything. So let's say you had a new writer sitting right in front of you and you could give them one piece of advice to kind of hone in on this particular topic. What do you think that would be?
If you're interested in writing complex women, authentic women, listen to the way that they talk. This is a good rule of thumb in general for writing, is you should be listening. I sort of consider myself a professional eavesdropper, and I'm very interested in how people talk and depicting the way that people talk in communication. If you listen to the way people talk, you'll get a strong idea of how they think, and not just what they say, but what they don't say. And that'll allow you to draw really comprehensive characters.
So thank you so much for coming on today. You can find you and your kick-ass books.
Thank you. You can find them darbyharn.com, and then you can find them anywhere, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and your libraries, which is amazing. My Kickstarter is going on for my latest novel right now. That's for Dead Malls, which is my sort of love letter to all things 80s. I basically sort of describe it as if Stephen King wrote a choose your own adventure novel.
Thank you so much to my guest today, author Darby Harn. All links for his work will be down below. But we also want to hear what you have to say. Are you sick of female action heroes? Or are you just maybe looking for something a little more nuanced than we've seen in the recent years? Or maybe you're on the opposite coin and you think that these heroes are completely fine and I've lost my rocker. Either way, let me know down below. And don't forget, if you enjoy these interviews and video essays, please make sure that you're liking, commenting, subscribing, and most importantly, sharing. At the time I'm filming this, I am just barely creeping up on 100 subscribers, so everything you do makes such a huge difference. And if you want to support my work more directly, you can check out the first 4 chapters of Blood Herring here on YouTube completely free. This supports not only me, but also my audiobook narrators, Dallin and Kennedy Bradford. Thank you so much, and happy writing.